Are you struggling with learning centers in your classroom? Math, literacy centers, maybe you're using them for science or social studies. The chances are, if you're struggling with learning centers, your centers are missing three key components, or at least one of the three key components. Now, over the last few weeks, I have shared the first two key ingredients that your learning centers have to be successful. And today, I'm going to be sharing that third key ingredient that you need in order for your learning centers to be successful in your classroom. Stay tuned. What's up, rock stars? My name is Farah, and here on my channel, I strive to bring you actionable tips and strategies for you to take into your classroom, your growing or aspiring edupreneur business, and along the way, I like to share a little bit of fun from my travels as a full-time edupreneur. Now, learning centers are a critical tool in the teacher toolbox, and I do believe that all teachers should be using learning centers in their classroom. As I've said, this tool can help you meet the educational needs of your students regardless of what level they are on. It is the ultimate tool in your teacher toolbox. Now, over the last couple of weeks, I did share the first two key ingredients, and I'm going to link down below those links to those videos so you can go check those out and make sure that your learning centers have at least those two key ingredients as well. But today, we're going to talk about that third key secret ingredient that your learning centers have got to have in order for them to run smoothly and successfully in your K-5 classroom. Learning centers, while a critical tool for you to use in your classroom, can be one of the biggest stressors that a teacher can face. But it doesn't have to be teachers. In the classrooms that I visit, often and most often, I'm asked to help with learning centers. And I get that question is, how can I make my centers successful? How can I make them work for me instead of against me? And oftentimes when I'm observing those math and literacy rotations in classrooms, I see that one, if not all, of these key three ingredients are missing. Now, the final key ingredient that you are going to need to make sure that your centers have is consistency. You have got to be consistent with using your learning centers, the consistency with the types of activities that you put in your centers, and consistency with making sure that you are constantly changing those centers out so that your students know exactly how to use the activities. In my early years as a classroom teacher, I found myself struggling to get it all done. I had to get small group reading, full group reading. I had to get literacy centers, math centers. I had to get it all done in such a small amount of time. Some of the biggest problems that I faced were my own doing. I struggled to find literacy centers and math centers that followed that predictable pattern so that I had clarity in my learning centers. I also struggled to find centers and keep up with centers. And because I didn't have centers at the ready to go, I wasn't changing those centers out regularly and therefore wasn't using them on a consistent basis because I hadn't changed the activities out. At the time, I didn't know how to make my own centers, and therefore I was struggling looking for centers that followed the same predictable patterns that my students were used to. Centers were supposed to be used for enrichment and review. They weren't meant to be new activities, and my students were struggling with that because I was finding a lot of great activities to put in my centers, but they didn't follow that predictable pattern. The struggle was real, my teacher friend.
The struggle was real.
Add to that the fact that there were so many times that my schedule was interrupted by a fire drill or a tornado drill or any number of other things, an assembly that was sprung on us at the last minute. These types of things were interrupting my schedule, and all of it combined together because I didn't have a plan in place to make sure that I had consistency in my learning centers. It was causing chaos when I did run my centers in my classroom for literacy and math. I wasn't running centers every single day. It seemed like something was always derailing me. I didn't have centers ready and prepped so that I could change them out. Something came up in the schedule. It was a number of things, but the bottom line is that I wasn't running them every single day, and it was such a headache when I did run them that my students weren't familiar, and it was almost like having to reteach the center rotations all over again because I had no consistency in my center management. Now, in order to gain consistency in your learning centers, you are going to have to run your learning centers every single day.
Every single day.
I realize that there are things that are going to come up. There's going to be that fire drill. There's going to be that surprise assembly where you have a guest speaker that comes in. There are even going to be days where you're out on a snow day. Can I get a amen on the snow days? There are all kinds of things that are going to happen. But the fact is that when those things aren't happening, you need to make sure that you are running your learning centers consistently every single day that you possibly can. Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to be organized. You are going to have to make sure that you have your centers prepped ahead of time. Get out of the habit of prepping those centers for the week on the Sunday night before. Let go of those Sunday night blues. This was a huge changing point in my teacher career with regard to learning centers, was when I realized that it would benefit me so much more if I would get those learning centers prepped ahead of time, like a month ahead of time, or even a couple of months ahead of time. Now, in order to do this, I would enlist the help of maybe some older students. I even enlisted the help of my students in the classroom because they could cut out laminating. They could put pieces into a baggie. They could set the centers up each week. They love to help. And even my kindergartners could help with certain tasks. And we always have parent volunteers. Even if you're in a district or school where you don't have a lot of parent volunteers, a lot of my parents would help if I just asked them. Even if they're not volunteering, reach out and ask them to see if they will help. And maybe you can send some of this stuff home with a student and the parent can help prepare this at home. But the fact of the matter is stop dealing with this on the Sunday night before the week that you're actually going to use these centers, because when you do that, inevitably something happens, you get derailed and you lose that consistency in your learning centers. Now, in addition to making sure that you have these centers prepped and ready to go, you're also going to need a consistent place to go to get centers. This is why I actually created my kindergarten through 5th grade center bundles. They are year-long bundles that you can go to and you can use in your classroom. You can get them prepped. There's a month for every month of the school year, and you're going to get 10 literacy and 10 math centers for each month at the grade level. I'm going to leave a link down below in the description so that you can go check them out, and you will see the types of predictable activities that I talked about in my first video with regard to clarity. You'll be able to see those type of predictable activities that you are going to want to put in your learning centers so that your centers have that clarity and functionality and consistency in your classroom. Not only do you need to know where to go to get good learning centers, but you need to learn how to make your own. It is so super simple, teacher. And if I told you that I created every single one of the center activities in my bundles that I personally used in kindergarten through 5th grade, I created every single one of those centers from my iPad. Would that shock you? I did. It is that simple. So you need to learn how to create those centers for yourself. And amazingly enough, in my program, Learning Centers Made Easy, not only am I going to take you from A to Z on how to set up, run, and manage successful learning centers in your classroom, I'm also going to teach you how to make your own so that you're never stuck not having a center for the skill that you need to put into your rotations. Now, again, learning centers are a great tool for your teacher tool belt, but if you don't have consistency with your learning centers, then you are going to be spinning your wheels. You're going to be on that hamster wheel, just going round and round and round, and you're never going to gain any type of footing within your learning centers. And who is going to suffer? Your students. Your students are going to suffer because they're not going to get the maximum potential and the maximum benefit and impact from that small group instruction that you're giving them at your teacher table, because you're too busy dealing with all the other students who aren't at the table with you during that time. You've got to have consistency. You've got to have clarity, functionality, and consistency. Now, are you ready to take back your sanity? Take back your weekends, take back your time, and get rid of those Sunday night blues. I want to share with you a way that you can get clarity, functionality, and consistency in those learning centers and finally have the successful management system that you need in your classroom. I want to invite you to join me in Learning Centers Made Easy. Learning Centers Made Easy is the only program of its kind that is going to help you gain clarity, functionality, and consistency in your learning centers. And it is going to help you take back your sanity and your time. This program will give you the tools that you need to effectively and efficiently run learning centers in your classroom. You will learn how to set them up, run them efficiently, and manage those learning center rotations while you are with your students at your small group table, giving them the biggest impact that you can because you're not worried about what's going on with your other students. You are also going to learn how to have that consistency in your learning centers because you're going to learn where you can go to find learning centers, and you are also going to learn how to make your own learning centers that you can use over and over and over in your lesson planning, giving you that go-to place for you to switch those learning centers and maintain that consistency in your learning center rotations. Now, this program is only open a few times a year, friend, and I want you to get in on the next enrollment. So I'm going to leave a link in the description down below where you can jump over and you can check that out. I hope you join me in Learning Centers Made Easy. Thank you so much for watching, friend. If you're looking for more tips and strategies for your classroom or growing edupreneur business, make sure you check out the videos on your screen. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn the notification bell on so that you get notified when we go live or upload a new video here on the channel. Thanks for watching and keep being an educational rock star.